Chasing precision. I'm chasing precision. For most people, most businesses, you don't need to go through this process, but if you want ultimate quality, you are going to need to start to shim your machine. Now, we already know that we are at least square and parallel because we've gone through the testing process in order to do this, but I want to square off this gantry just a little bit more. So what we're going to be doing, and what I've done already, is I have started to loosen some of these bolts. So basically we have a little bit of forwards or backwards leaning movement on our CNC router. Now for small routers, it's not so hard to set up. In fact, even the big ones, we do have two plates, one of which is this rear mounting plate, and we've got this plate that's sitting in front here. So what I'm doing right now is I've got a whole bunch of these shims, and each one of these shim stocks actually have different values. So here is 0.05 millimeters. These are stainless steel. They don't compress very easy, unlike our aluminium. And we want to make sure that that seats right over our bolt. So what I need to do is I'm going to put the machine under a bit of preload. I'm going to bounce up and down once or twice. I'm going to set our gauge somewhere to 0. Now I'm going to rotate this guy around. I want to come to this side, and I'm going to be tracking where this dial gauge is moving, backwards or forwards. If we are leaning backwards and we rotate our gauge around to the back, it's going to give us a positive value. If we are going into a negative value, so in other words, our clock is running counterclockwise, that basically means that we are leaning in the opposite direction. So think about it like this. If the gauge goes positive, it means we are leaning backwards. If the gauge goes positive the other way, well, we're leaning the other way. So now I need to go and have a look to see where we are. So I'm quite close to 0, and I'm going to start to rotate around. So we were positive and now we are negative. Now it's very important to understand, guys, this dial indicator works in less than a mil. In other words, one full rotation around on this dial is 1 millimeter. And if we consider the length at where we are measuring, this is actually pretty good tolerance as is. I'm almost tempted and quite happy to start to work on this process as we are. So if we were to think about an imaginary triangle, we kind of like this. We've got a really long axis, and considering that most people are only going to go up to about a 1/2 inch bit, if we are less than 0.5 millimeter over here on our bit, that's practically unnoticeable. You can sit and fine tune this to your heart's content, depending on what you're doing. If you're doing things like high precision molds, then perhaps 0.5 micron is not going to be enough for you. It's up to you to decide. For woodworking, well, as good as I can get it is going to be acceptable. In this case, I'm quite happy to start to go through the process of slowly and gently starting to tighten up. Remember, guys, when you are tightening, you don't just want to go in and fully tighten. I now know I'm a little bit shallow on this end, so as we are going through this process, I'm going to tighten up a little bit, tighten up, tighten up, tighten up, and we are slowly going to torque it down so that we get things tight. If you go too tight too fast, the likelihood is you're going to bugger this up. So now what I'm going to do, we've basically roughly tightened things into place. Now I'm not cranking it tight because I'm trying to work out my shim height. I'm going to go from point A to point B again, and making sure that as we start to tighten up, we can stay as close to 0 on this end and 0 on this end. And that's all there really is to chasing high precision for our spindle. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed going through this process, and it's important to remember it doesn't matter whether you have a 100 Rand CNC or a 100 million Rand CNC mill lathe machine. Unfortunately, this is the process that we have to follow. So if you're into machinery and you want to learn more about setting up CNCs and other machines, well, like, subscribe, and tune in to the next episode as we walk you through an AM.CO.za CNC router machine.
AI may eventually take over, but what's for certain is that smart machines are already operating all over the world right now. So stay ahead with AM.CO.za. For 11 years, they've been the leader in CNC and printing machines like CNC routers, large format printers, vinyl cutters, laser cutters, plasma cutters, DTF printers, and many more. Visit AM.CO.za showrooms in Sunny Rock, Joburg, and Montague Gardens, Cape Town, or WhatsApp hi to 060 600 6000 for more info. AM.CO.za, achievement matters.